You guys got to dance. There we go. Don's into it.
I can barely walk.
Yeah, there we go. Whee! Welcome back to Skyfire Live. These are our awesome propeller heads hats. Thanks to some practical jokers in the office.
Yes, thanks, Brent.
Brenna.
Monica.
I love it. Don and Jason are jealous. I know that they don't have their own, but we'll rectify that.
Yeah, we're gonna make sure anybody that wants a propeller heads hat gets one that's branded, right?
Sure. Yeah, we'll put Skyfire right there. I love it.
So hey, before we get started, you guys, I have a comment and a question. One, a lot of people were concerned. I got my hair cut. I know Jason especially was concerned about it. So
yeah, I was worried.
And my question is, are you guys going to lunch after this today?
We are. The three of us.
I'm jealous. Give me 6 hours and I can be out there.
Okay. Yeah, just come fly down and come fly out to Atlanta. You'll be all set.
Cool. Awesome. I'll see you in a bit.
Well, on that note, welcome. You gonna take yours off? Are you gonna keep it on or off? What do you think?
No, my hair's beautiful.
All right, fair.
Mine too.
Now that I've ruined, right, exactly. Yeah, it's perfect, both of you. Well, welcome to the Skyfire Live. We got a little distracted there with our fantastic propeller heads hats. But today we have joining us two of our very good friends, Jason Ritter and Don Strength from Georgia Emergency Management Agency. Thank you guys so much for joining us. You guys have been great partners. We work together on various projects, including the Super Bowl and other fun things. Right now, you guys are very busy dealing with the coronavirus pandemic here in Georgia. So tell us a little bit about what's behind you there. What are you guys up to right now?
Yeah, we Don and I are currently on location in the downtown area. Well, not south of downtown, near the airport, at a what we're calling a mega testing facility for testing potential COVID patients. We are our agency is the lead agency in the state of Georgia for the COVID response, and so having said that, we are kind of running this mega spot, making sure that the drive-through testing goes off without a hitch, taking care of logistical needs, and we have a great contracted nursing agency here who's helping out with the actual testing, and we're seeing around 1,500 people a day in the beginning, and the numbers are starting to drop. So that's a good thing. The testing is happening, and so we're looking forward to getting past COVID, but we know that may be a long road. And within our agency, we do it all. They say if you don't like what you're doing at GEMA, then wait till tomorrow because you'll be doing something new. And so we're thankful for the opportunity, thankful to meet a lot of great people who are doing a lot of great things, and it's all for the good of the state. So we're glad to be here.
Well, we're certainly appreciative. As I'm currently a Georgia resident, Ben was a Georgia resident for a long time. We're very appreciative of the work that you guys do and the friendship that we've developed with you guys in particular and the agency. And one of those special missions that you guys sort of run here in the state is the UAS program. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the way GEMA is set up, the state is actually divided into 8 different field areas, and Jason and Don are field area coordinators. So they have 15 other jobs in various parts of the state. But in addition to that, y'all are the ones that run the UAS program in the state. So tell me a little bit about the program that you guys have developed.
Well, thanks, man. Thanks for having us on today. It's great to be with you on your program. And yeah, we do have a UAS program in the state of Georgia. I've just been newly appointed as the program manager for that program. And it's just an opportunity for us to pull all of our public safety agencies and private sector partners together to be able to discuss how we operate in the state of Georgia. And one of the great things that come from our meetings that we hold is networking, so that we get to know everyone else across the state that has UAS equipment, and learn from them as well as learning from us. Of course, we deploy to do all kinds of things: search and rescue, damage assessment. We have just to go into, say, for instance, special events and provide aerial observation of traffic flow. We've used our program for a multitude of situations over the last several years, and folks like yourself, Atlanta Skyfire, being a partner with us in the state of Georgia, has just been a valued asset to have you guys on board with us. So it's just a way for us to be able to kind of understand what's out there, the technology, where we're going in the future, and how we can best apply that to public safety in the state of Georgia.
And just a little bit of a history there about our program. We, about 4.5 years ago, we were approached about starting a drone program in the state. And of course, the thought process was we go buy the drones and we learn how to fly them and we go do good things. And that was the thought process behind our program in the beginning. And we quickly learned that's just not how it goes. There's ongoing training that has to continue. There's ongoing learning of new equipment, new rules, new situations. While we're flying, changes every day. I never thought we would be flying a protest. I never thought we would be flying the Super Bowl 5 years ago when we started this thing, or assisting in that. So the future is unknown, but we know it's going to keep growing. And we started out with just a couple of off-the-shelf drones, and have continued to advance our fleet, and we'll hopefully continue to do that. And I'm just going to be honest. Don and I were talking earlier that, and I'm not. I don't work for Skyfire, but I will say this. Just as a note to anybody who's considering a drone program, don't try to cowboy that thing and do it yourself. You will find yourself in a mess. Find you a consulting firm like Skyfire, somebody who will step up and walk the walk with you, and hold your hand through the whole thing, and even be there after your program's established to make sure that you continue to do the right things. I mean, if it wasn't for you guys keeping us up to date on Part 107, keeping us up to date on FAA regulations and things like that, we find ourselves in a mess more often than not. So we thank you for your continued friendship and relationship over the past several years. And it's good to know that sitting on a rooftop, I can call Matt or Ben up and say, "Hey guys, here's the situation. We need some help," and y'all are working it out, or immediately after a hurricane, y'all are right there, Johnny on the spot, to help us out and be there for us. And so we appreciate you guys as well. Thank you.
And I'll give a quick prime example of what Jason is talking about. About 3, maybe 4 weeks ago, as we were in the early stages of setting up this mega SPOC or super SPOC location in Atlanta, the need was there to fly logistics over the SPOC locations so that we could get some aerial photographs to be able to set up traffic flow and just to be able to see what the site looked like from an overall shot from above. And so knowing that we were so close to the airport, we were concerned about that. We reached out to Matt to give us some direction on how one would go about getting permission to fly this close to the Atlanta airport. And of course, the first thing he said was, "You do realize that's the busiest airport in the world, right?" But then he pointed me in the right direction to start that process. And I don't know, 4 or 5 phone calls later, and hearing that you do realize that's the world's busiest airport multitude of times during the process, we finally got down to where that needed to take place. As an end result, we ultimately didn't do it because the risk at that point outweighed the gain because we already had opened up the SPOC site by that point. But that's just a case in point of how having a consultant such as Atlanta Skyfire can be a huge asset to you.
No, well, I certainly appreciate it, and we're gonna have to have you guys on more often since you say such nice things about us.
Well, you're buying lunch, right?
Well, it's if you'll let me, I will. Yeah, for sure.
No, you're not buying our lunch.
All right. But this is kind of the running joke with us here. But one of the things that you guys have done really well in this state, and it's not something that's being done in a lot of places. You're doing it in coordination with FEMA as well and the FAA. It started this statewide working group. You sort of referenced it earlier, Jason. And tell us a little bit about what the group is and who it's comprised of, and then we'll jump off from there.
Yeah, so working with a good friend of ours, Travis Potter, who works with FEMA Region 4 right here out of Atlanta. Travis was instrumental in his job was to set up UAS working groups among all of Region 4, the southeastern United States, and we were happy to jump on there and try to be a leader in that endeavor. And so we just started reaching out to people we knew were flying drones, people we knew were flying the right way, people we knew were flying the wrong way. And we just started getting that contact information available, having people send us different ways of getting in touch with these folks. And we set up a meeting and one day, and we had law enforcement, we had fire services, we had EMS services, we had state, local, federal, we had private partners who were involved in public safety, such as Southern Company, there with us at the table. And we ended up having monthly meetings, basically like Don said earlier, just networking to discuss what's working right, what's not working right, where do you need help, where can we help you, and how can you help us. And one of the biggest things that's happened with our UAS working group is this past November, we had our first annual UAS working group conference. We teamed up with Drone Sense, Skyfire. We teamed up with Cobb County Fire and Emergency Services. We teamed up with SkyDis Group, who's also a consulting firm. And we were able to go and have a conference, had over 100 attendees at this conference. The worst part about it was that it was 18 degrees for some reason, and we were not expecting that. But most of the time when you go to a conference, you sit in classroom and you get lectured for hours on end, and then you have 5 minutes to touch the pretty stuff. Well, our goal going into this conference was 5 minutes of lecture and the rest of the time hands-on. And we set up stations all over Cobb County Emergency Services Complex, and we're able to put hands-on technology, put people in different situations, and how to get out of those, how to work through those. We're thankful for our relationship with the FAA and FEMA and all of our private partners that really help pull that off. And then I think we all use this as an excuse way too much, but COVID kind of struck and put a halt on some of those meetings and things. But we're looking forward now to how we're going to start that back up in the real near future, whether it be virtual or in person or whatever. And so, Matt, if you don't mind, again, I don't make any money off this, but if you want to be, if you're not from Georgia and you would like to just be a fly on the wall in one of our working group meetings and see how that goes, we would just get in touch with Matt, and we can get you there.
Yeah, and just to give you an example of something actually that just happened yesterday, there's a new emergency management agency here in a county EMA who's starting up a program, and I went over and dropped off the equipment that they had purchased, and he kept telling me, God, I would love to just know other people who are doing this. I got to find out what's working for other people and how they're using it and some of the pitfalls that they've had. And I said, well, that actually exists. Let me get you connected with Don and Jason and get you guys on that working group, because I think, there's no reason to reinvent this wheel. I mean, we've seen so many programs here in Georgia get started and be successful, and just getting everybody in the same room and talking about what's working and what's not working has been absolutely critical, I think, to the successes that we've had across the state. And then bringing everybody together in that conference, I think was a huge win. Just, we saw people from literally neighboring agencies who had never met one another, or in some cases in the same county, fire and police.
Right.
Yeah. who had never worked together, and this is an opportunity to bring them together. So one of the things
I
wanted,
Matt, I just wanted to add on to that. One of the things that I tell people is your guys' working group is a real example of one that kind of came together organically and I think really provides solution for people. You guys didn't really know where you're going from the start, but we certainly appreciate that. So I just wanted to tell anybody out there that Jason and Don are great people to talk to if you're looking in your region to get a working group set up. They've got a lot of experience with it and background with it that they can help you get that going.
Yeah, glad to help.
For sure. And so one of the things that I'm glad you spoke up, Ben, because I wanted to ask you about was how does this work from an FAA perspective as far as being a statewide agency? I know there's different ways to approach it, but what is the current thinking on how the best way to do this?
Yeah, I think we've got it pretty simplified now. I mean, there's really, as a government operator, which they are a state agency, GEMA is, they can qualify as a public aircraft operator since they are government and a political subdivision of the state. So they can go that route and operate under a COA, or they can have Part 107 pilots. They have to have one or the other or both. Obviously, they can't operate as hobbyists, but we say that very succinctly now. It took us, a few years to be able to kind of figure that out, what all that meant, what public aircraft operations meant. And I don't know if you guys want to get into that at all, as far as like what you're using, 107 or COA, or if not, that's fine too. But those are the options that are available to any state agency, really.
Okay. Well, we have both. We started with just a COA. We flew under a COA for a long time, and then we learned the process, as you just mentioned, over the last couple of 2-3 years. Begin to realize the value, even though we are a state agency, we begin to understand the value of a Part 107. So we trained with Atlanta Skyfire, and then we went to a local airport, and we took our 107. Proud to say we all passed 100%. That was an accomplishment. But
it is.
Yeah,
it is, and that's actually not to be taken lightly. I mean, that 107 test, when we go do training, that's one of the first things that we say. You guys, when you signed up for the jobs that you're doing for public safety, you certainly did not think you'd be having to learn about Class B airspace and shelves and aerodynamics and critical angles of attack and all this stuff. So hats off. I've got a fire alarm going.
All right. So Ben's out of the mix here for a few minutes, but
Ben's evacuating the building.
Right, exactly. Yeah, he wasn't the one I expected to have an emergency situation come up in the middle of this. But hey, you know what? It's live TV or live internet or whatever it is we're doing here. But yeah, and so I think just to follow up on that point, I mean, there's certainly times where it makes sense to use 107 and makes sense to use COAs. I will say that you guys, correct me if I'm wrong, but are operating under a blanket COA primarily, which would cover most of the area of the state that's not controlled airspace. We are actually working right now with a couple of different state agencies in different states to do statewide jurisdictional COAs, which are a thing, and certainly are fairly complicated. But one of the things that the sort of the first question back from the FAA in a couple of these cases was, can we exclude the major airports, because it'll make it a heck of a lot easier. So jurisdiction for the entire state, but excluding the biggest airports. So and you can kind of fill in with the SGI or the emergency COA where you need to. Is that what's working for you?
Yeah, the blanket COA is working. Where it was not working, and we discovered it was not working, was for our training purposes. That was one area. You can't go out and do your, as our policy requires us to do training per month, 4 hours of training per month. That's not covered under a COA. It's not an emergency operation. It's just not. Another area that we discovered would not be covered under our COA was doing site surveys. If we're going out and doing a site survey for a school system or other critical infrastructure, if we're flying at SunTrust Park and we're trying to go in and help these folks with critical infrastructure planning, it's not qualified under that COA. And that's where the Part 107 really stepped up and helped us out. But yeah, in the, SGI would definitely be an option still for us if we needed it. And so you know, and that's the good thing is that that there are options to fly just about anywhere you need to fly, just about anywhere, and having the being part of the qualified entry program that DJI provides, which gives us unlocks in certain areas to where the general public can't fly. That's another big help for us to be able to fly. Sometimes we have to fly at a prison. Sometimes we have to fly at a jail or an area that's commonly restricted to the general public, and so
or at the Super Bowl.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Super Bowl 53. You can't fly here.
And look, we were actually going to be granted permission to fly at the airport if I can push that envelope.
Yeah.
And we're talking about rerouting traffic or completely shutting the airport down.
And I think it's the world's busiest airport.
It is the world's busiest airport. Trust me, I know this very well. So yes, there is a situation for everybody, regardless of where you are.
My advice would be just don't get stuck in a box like I did for so long. If my coworker Tim Reeve is working, he's shouting amen right now because I got stuck in that COA box for a while, and everything we need would be covered there. And don't get your head out of the sand and look for ways to think outside the box.
Well, and not only is he working, but he's actually viewing us live on Facebook. So he heard that. So hello to Tim Reeve. Another fantastic GMA area coordinator who also quite the drone pilot himself. So yeah, I mean, I think that's super important too, is just to have options. I think that's definitely the name of the game. And yes, actually at the moment, Atlanta is not the busiest airport in the world because of all the downturn in traffic, but it has been for the last like 10 years running. And they say that you can't go to hell without stopping through Atlanta first. So that is the God's honest truth that it's a pretty crazy place here. So, but we do have COAs approved that include the airport. You know, we've certainly done that for Atlanta Police and others as well. So, you know, tell me a little bit about, you know, because there's 159 counties in Georgia. And you guys each are responsible for a certain number of them in your sector. What are the conversations like that you're having with the local agencies about drones, either those that want to start programs or those that have them, and how do you guys work together on that?
Well, and we do. You're exactly right. I'm in Northeast Georgia. I have the mountains basically from North Carolina state line down to I-20. So I have several rural counties in my coverage area. Just about every one of them are interested in starting a drone program, or they already have. And so typically the first thing they do is reach out to us, and then I'll go in and just kind of sit down and talk to them and see what their thoughts are, what their vision is for what they want to do with the UAS program. And then I strongly encourage them to hire a consultant because, well, we've already said that today. We've been through it. We've made mistakes, and everybody does. It's a learning process, but it does change constantly. So it's something you've got to have. So I'll go in and sit down with them, listen to their story, see what their vision is, and then kind of guide them in the right direction as far as equipment is concerned, and make sure they understand the value of having a consultant and the legalities and the liability. You know, everything we've talked about since we started this Facebook Live here all goes back to liability. We're talking about training. We're talking about having the proper you know, whether you have a COA or a Part 107, and when either one of those come into play, or if you have both like we do now, it all comes back to liability. You know, you can't just run out to the local box store and buy a drone and put it up for public safety purposes. That you're asking for problems if you do that. And I'm not going to tell you that I haven't seen some of that. I have, and that's when I kind of try to have a sidebar and say, look, guys, you need to rethink the back end of this because you're opening the door for some major issues.
Yeah, that's so important too, because I mean, I think as you mentioned earlier, a lot of people think, oh, just buy my drone and do some initial training and then I'm off to the races. That's all the money I ever have to spend again. Right. But as you said, Jason, too, I mean, you know, 4 hours a month of recurrent training, you know, this is not just like something that you pull out when you need it. You got to pull it out and play with it, on a regular basis, so that you know how to fly the aircraft when you actually need it. Because chances are, when you do need it, you're going to be under stress. You're going to be in a difficult situation, and that's not the time you want to be figuring out how to fly a drone. So
that's exactly what Jason and I were having that conversation earlier. The more you do it, the more comfortable you get, and the less nervous that you are when you fire those motors up and it takes off. I don't think you ever lose that butterfly. A little bit. If you do, then maybe you're a little too comfortable.
Right.
But if you wait until and I'm speaking from our standpoint, if I wait until one of my counties calls and says, I've got somebody stuck on the side of Tallulah Gorge in Stevens or Rabun County, Georgia, I need you to come fly and see if you can help us find this guy. Well, that's a very challenging environment to fly in because of the gorge itself and the updrafts and just all different things that go along with it, the terrain. And, so if I wait until then to actually go fly the gorge, now I'm asking for problems, so it's very important to get that training in, fly as much as you possibly can so that you get comfortable with your equipment. So, because, if something goes wrong, it's going to happen at the most worst time. I mean, there is no good time for something to go bad. So the more you fly, the more repetitiveness that you have, better chances are you're going to be able to deal with something when it goes bad.
Now, and real quickly, just because we probably should have talked about this up front, but from an emergency management standpoint, what are the specific missions? I mean, I think it's pretty obvious with the fire missions and the law enforcement. Are there things that are specific to emergency management where you found the drone to be particularly helpful?
Search and rescue, in my case, I'm in the northeast mountains of Georgia, so we have a tremendous number of people who come into the North Georgia mountains on the weekend that may not be very savvy trail hikers, and so they come to North Georgia, and evidently somebody will get into trouble, and they're not familiar with where they are. Triangulating the phone with a ping is hard to do in the mountains because there's not a cell phone tower every 5 miles. So we have a large number of people who get in trouble and don't exactly know where they are, and we can't find them through traditional means. So if we've got a general area where they're located, first thing we'll try to do is send one of our UAS aircraft up to see if we can locate them. And I keep going back to the gorge in Tallulah Falls. That's an actual situation that I have worked. It was about a month ago. We knew that the two gentlemen were on the side of the gorge trying to make their way out. It had gotten dark on them. We didn't know exactly where they were. I was able to fly in, find one of the two gentlemen that were lost, and hover over that patient as a guide tool to the rescuers. They were able to see the beacons on my UAS, and so that guided them into to the general area where he was located, so they could go up the side of the mountain and rescue him. So in my case, I use mine is utilized for search and rescue a tremendous amount. But Jason can talk a little bit about Hurricane Matthew.
Yeah,
we used it down there.
Other things we do.
Michael, I'm sorry.
Hurricane Michael. We did some preliminary damage assessments. So our agency is tasked with identifying both commercial and non-commercial damage after a natural disaster, whether it be a tornado or hurricane, whatever. But primarily our goal is we're going out and looking at residential damage, because our goal is to get the people, to protect the citizens, get the citizens back up where they need to be. So if we hear there's a quarter-mile wide tornado that stretched a half a mile through downtown Fayetteville, where you're at today, Matt, then we can go fly that track, and using drone sense technology, we can live stream that back to our state operations center, where our individual assistance teams and our folks are stationed, and they can see that damage and get a really quick picture of what are we looking at. Do we have more homes destroyed, or more homes with just some shingles blown off the roof, and where that situation is. So that's one good aspect in emergency management. Another one that Don and I, we had the opportunity to go out to Pueblo, Colorado with you guys, and it was amazing to go out on a train derailment. Instead of sending a live person down a derailed train track to identify a leaking chemical, then we can take a drone and do our best to stay out of that plume and get down there and identify that placard on the side of that rail car. One, it's a lot safer. Two, it's a lot quicker. And so there's several ways that we're using them in emergency management, but those three would be the primary ways.
We do a good bit. I also do a good bit of flying with my counties when they're doing exercising. I'll go out and fly while in, just for instance, active shooter scenarios, and I can fly and capture their exercise on video, and then they can take the video footage from the drone during their after action review and find different things maybe that they could have done a little bit better, or point out the things that they did right. So it's used, I've used it several times to video exercising for our different counties as well.
That is awesome. Switching gears a little bit. One, sorry, I hope I didn't blow your guys' ears out with our fire alarm here.
I don't see smoke, so it must be a good thing.
All good. False alarm. It's new construction, so we've had a bunch of them recently. It's just frightening when it happens right behind you. But I did want to ask you guys about one of the things that we've been talking about and kind of trying to gain some knowledge and insight into is there are a lot of drone programs out there that start up and then don't make it for various reasons, right? And so we're trying to shine a light on that and go, why? What are some solutions that as an industry we can come up with there? So I'm curious as to you guys, and Jason, you mentioned this kind of when we first started talking today, but I'm curious, like, what were some of the struggles that you guys had? Are there struggles you guys are having today with this? This is something that we really want to start talking about and going like, we love talking about the success, and you guys are an example of that. But there's also still challenges and difficulties that we're running into. So I wonder if you guys could just speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, and it kind of ties into Matt's question, or Matt alluding to how many counties we deal with in the state, and everybody's doing different things. But I think, in my personal opinion, the biggest reason I see programs fail is that program in city limits of 5,000 people is trying to do the same thing that a program in the city limits of 500,000 people are doing. And they try to get too big too quick, or they think they need the latest, greatest, best toy that's out there, or nothing, and it's just not the case. That one of my biggest likes about our UAS working group is that we can all come together, and I can see what Atlanta Police Department, what Cunningham and those guys are doing, and I can look at that from a state perspective and say, man, that's great, but it really wouldn't work for GEMA and what we're doing. It just don't work here. It's not going to work for Troup County, Georgia, what's working in Atlanta. And I think we get ourselves in that bubble to where we tend to want to copy and paste too much. And copy and paste and cookie cutting is okay in some instances. But with a UAS program, again, a good reason to have a consultant is that everything is different. There's no two UAS programs that are exactly alike. If they are, one of them is failing because they're trying to do something that's just not meant for them to do, I believe. So I think some of the downfalls are that. Another downfall that I see is that a UAS program out the gate is a very sexy thing. People love to see it. They want to hear about it. This thing is so awesome. But then life comes calling and regular job duties come calling, and that thing sits on a shelf. And then all of a sudden, bad incident happens, and you need it, and you haven't updated your firmware, and it won't take off. The powers that be see that, and the program fails because of that too. So what's
the solution there? I mean, what do you think? Like, what have you guys done to kind of prevent that from happening?
The solution, in our opinion, is one: if you're asked to go fly a mission, and that mission falls within your policy, then go fly the mission. Don't come up with an excuse because you got other busier stuff going on. If you can fly that mission, go fly that mission. If you can get that saved, get that saved. If you can do it, put it out there as much as you can. And that's why we're so thankful to partner with Drone Sense, because we can be anywhere in the state of Georgia, anywhere in the nation, and we can send back to our executive staff exactly what's happening. And that has been one of the most valuable parts of our program, is being able to live stream information directly back to those decision makers who are having to make those decisions in a hurry.
That's probably the number one solution. If someone has a program that is waning or about to fall apart, and they're not doing live streaming, that gets more attention because it's such a valuable tool. I mean, it puts the incident right there in the laps of the commanders back at the EOC or wherever it may be. So I agree 100%. That's the best solution, I think.
Keep it out there in front of the people who are making the decision.
That's right.
Mm. Yeah, that's super helpful. I'm just sitting here going like, wow, like we're not where we want to be, but we have grown up some as an industry, right? Because Jason, you were talking about like in the beginning, because we had the same view 5-6 years ago. We're like, well, let's just go get a drone and learn to fly it, and then we'll have all these great missions, right? And there's just been a lot more to it. You know, we've had to kind of really grow up and mature as an industry. So thank you guys for that. That's super helpful. Like I said, that's something that we're really trying to kind of get our head around as far as why we're seeing a lack of success in certain areas. So
also, just to add to it, just some things I've seen. I think there's a lot of, maybe not a lot, but there are some instances of drones being misused in the public safety world. They're not being used for and that's why I said, if it falls in the purview of your policy, then go do it. But we get out there and we try to do some things sometimes, I believe, that get ourselves in trouble, and they get our UAS program in the spotlight for the wrong reasons. And I say I'm talking about the nation as a whole. Again, keep your training up, because if you continue to train, you're going to train to do it the right way. I don't know what the rest of the world says, but in Georgia, we say, one old crap will wipe away 1,000 attaboys. And so I don't know if I can say that on here, but it's true. You go to making those mistakes that you should know better to be making if you were training, and it'll get you in trouble, and it'll wipe your program out in a hurry.
Yeah, no, that's well said, and I don't think they say that in the rest of the country, but I definitely
you can explain it later.
but I think the point is taken. So, well, listen, I really want to thank you guys for joining us. I think it really gives valuable perspective on what it takes to run a program from a state level. We talk a lot about on the local level, and it's just there's a lot more moving parts, I think, on the state level, and certainly the work you guys are doing to help all of your constituent counties kind of get their programs up and running is very valuable. So we really appreciate you guys joining us. Matt,
can I add one thing here? I just wanted to say specifically to Jason and Don, I know you guys mentioned us helping you out, but you've helped us out as much, kind of learn the ropes here and get involved with this and help kind of build up, especially in Georgia, this being a tool. So thank you guys for your work, and it's great to follow you guys and watch you guys in a different city in Georgia every couple days, and you guys are just doing great work. And living in Georgia as a Georgia resident, it was always nice knowing you guys were there and that you guys were supporting us. So thank you.
We're just a couple of good old country boys from Georgia. You guys are the smart ones. We appreciate you.
No, well, yeah, I don't know about that, but we appreciate the compliment nonetheless. But thank you guys so much for joining us. We appreciate it. Yeah, there we go. We're gonna wrap it up.
Yeah, I gotta have a hat.
That's happening. Mine's like
the great seal of Georgia right
there.
There you go.
Ben, you need to keep up the good hair days, man. Looks good on
you got it. Well, thank you guys for joining us. We really certainly appreciate it. I'll see you here shortly at lunch. Everybody else, if you have any questions about anything we talked about today, reach out to us on Twitter. Oh, there we go. We're getting some wind action. Look at that.
You might have a vortex.
If you need more information, reach out to us at skyfireconsulting.com, email, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and we are now on TikTok. thanks to the same person who got us the propeller head test. So Brenna started a TikTok, or Jake, or one of those guys. So one of the youngins that actually know what TikTok is. So cool. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We will see you next. Oh, Don's on TikTok.
He's all in.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys again. We'll talk to y'all soon. We'll see you next time.